I'm Aaron Sagers, and this is Talking Strange.
Aloha, spooky nerds, and welcome to Talking Strange, a paranormal pop culture show with the Den of Geek Network, where we discuss the entertainment of the unexplained. I'm your host, Aaron Sagers, a journalist, author, researcher of all things weird. Currently, I can be seen on Travel Channel and Discovery Plus's Paranormal, Caught on Camera. And pardon the pun, but this interview is going to be R-rated because we're talking about pirates. That's right. I had to make a pirate pun. On March 3rd, the new comedy series Our Flag Means Death premieres on HBO Max. Now, this 10-episode season is from creator David Jenkins and Taika Waititi. Of course, we all know who he is, all of us nerds. And it is very loosely based on the true adventures of 18th century Gentleman Pirate Stede Bonnet. And if you don't know about Stede Bonnet, after a refined life, he trades it all in to be a swashbuckler. He becomes the captain of his own pirate ship, the Revenge. He struggles to earn the respect of his slightly mutinous crew. Stede's fortunes change after he has a fateful run-in with the infamous Captain Blackbeard, played by Taika Waititi himself. Stede and their crew attempt to get their ship together and survive life on the high seas. Now, the man behind the Gentleman Pirate is a guy that, if you follow my work, you've certainly seen me interview him a couple times before, and you've seen him all over pop culture, from the series Wrecked to the Jumanji reboots to X-Files, Hunt for the Wilder People, What We Do in the Shadows, Flight of the Conchords, as well as the host of the long-running Cryptid Factor podcast. And his name is Rhys Darby, and we're bringing him in right now. Hello, Rhys.
And here he is.
Here he is. Hey, man. So good to see you. I see already New Zealand is well represented right behind you,
Yes.
in the form of a poster.
Mm-hmm. So this has been this is a set that I've designed myself for these type of interviews. So you've got a touch of New Zealand there. You've got some board games, a little bit of stuff for people to look at in the background if things get a touch on the boring side, which is what they tend to do when I'm talking. I'm already bored with what I just said.
Well, what I love about it is I know we're not here to talk about Flight of the Conchords, but it's such a touch of a Murray-ism to have a nice New Zealand poster right behind it. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Well, let's talk about, obviously, first off, I've seen the first 5 episodes of Our Flag Means Death. It's a really entertaining show. It's one of these roles that I could not picture anyone else being in this character of Stede than you. It just feels like such this perfect fit. But I know the development of these shows, they're twisty, they're turny. How did you come to be attached to this? Obviously, you know a lot of folks involved in the development of it.
Yeah. So not straight away, but I think David Jenkins eventually got hold of me when he tried out a few ideas, tested a few English men to be this chap. And I think underneath the whole way through, he was thinking, you know what, Rhys would fit this better than these guys. And I believe he spoke to Taika about it, and Taika just said, get him. What are you wasting your time for? Hurry up, So then he approached me, of course, would I do it? And who doesn't want to be a pirate? So of course it was easy for me. I put myself on tape, showed what I would do in the role in that part from the little piece of script that he sent through. And it's what they wanted. It's what he wanted. And I guess the rest is going to be history.
Yes. Yes. I mean, first off, you still submitted a tape. I mean, the producers, your close
Right.
friends, and they still made you submit a tape.
They didn't ask me. I just love submitting tapes. I said, yeah, I'll take the part. And look, this is what I would do with it, just in case it's not on the right, for you. And they were very happy with the tapes. And also, therefore, because production had already gone into the writing of it and things like that already. And so they really wanted to, it helped having my voice there. So I believe in the writer's room, my tape would be running while they're writing away. I've got a distinct voice to work with. And if you aren't familiar with my work, and of course you are, and a lot of your audience will be, but if you're not, then A, what's wrong with you? And B, get used to a different way of speaking and a different way and a very sort of a slightly odd way of getting about. And I think I'm completely regular, but a lot of people do think I'm weird. So
well, I mean, one of the things that I love with your career is that you're an actor, a comedian that has done so much that you can really kind of test someone's fan base based on what they know and like you the most from, which is really kind of like such a testament to a lot of the work you've done. But you're also such a busy guy that I'm surprised you were even able to fit this into your schedule as well as Taika. Like, how did that? I mean, was that a bit of a challenge figuring out the time for both you and he to be coming together and working on this?
He's definitely the one that is struggling for time. He's working on so many projects. And I think he says yes to a lot of things. I say yes to a lot of things as well. We're very much, we get excited by ideas and helping to create ideas with other people. And it's what we live for. I wake up and if I've got nothing going on, I'll just get a pen and paper and start writing something, even if I'm not even going to use it or there's no point to it. It's kind of a way of breathing for me, is just to keep being creative. It's all I have. But it's kind of like, so I think from speaking for Taika here, but he found the idea of acting in this as something as him having fun, as opposed to directing and really, cutting things together and the stuff he does is it's huge and brilliant, but can be arduous as well. And so when you're just in front of the camera with one of your best mates, you can actually have fun, have a good laugh, and we can pretend to be pirates. And so it's like we're kids again. And we both look at each other on the set and go, hang on, aren't we both like in our 40s and we're playing with swords? What are we doing? Well, I'll tell you what we're doing. We're having a bloody laugh, and so I'm glad it worked out. And I'm glad I was there. Probably one of the reasons he probably said yes to it is because he'd be opposite me. And so therefore it's forced fun for fathers in their 40s.
Yeah. Well, is this the most that you've actually acted opposite him?
Yeah, he's usually behind the camera, throwing jokes at me to try, or just cracking up in general and letting me go. And he does feature in most of the things he does. He likes to jump in there and take roles. But this was the first time that we were really opposite each other. But of course, we've hung out many, many times, and so it was very natural for us. And he's playing the sort of the brooding, dark villain type, and I'm the opposite, the light, foolish, naive little angel.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because this is a character that did exist. I was familiar with Stede Bonnet because, look, I think when maybe it's just men of a certain age when they're boys, they love pirates and they learn a lot about pirates, and girls too. But I loved pirates. I definitely knew about Stede. But how is this role different for you? And were you familiar at all with the Gentleman Pirate?
Yeah, I wasn't overly familiar with Stede Bonnet, Major Stede Bonnet. I then ended up doing some reading about him to learn really not so much the details of his life, but really trying to get into his head as to why he did what he did. And it made sense to me for someone to be out of their depth in an authoritative role. This is starting to sound like some of the roles I've played in the past. And also to have people want to follow you when really they shouldn't be following you. And once again, one of my earlier characters, as you know, is certainly the blind leading the blind there. Why did Brett and Jermaine follow Murray? The guy's a complete fool. Well, Brett and Jermaine didn't really, the characters I'm talking about here, didn't really know too much either about what was going on. They were certainly out of their depth. And so I guess, there were similarities there. So the main stretch for me was, how do I come across very fancy? And turns out I've had a lot of practice dressing up and attending fancy parties. So I can, I'm certainly a bit more rough around the edges than the actual Stede. But once I got those costumes on, man, and those high heels, it kind of fitted. It all fell into place.
Well, yeah, this is a guy that, as you said, he's out of his depth, but he's also trying to fit in, but doing it so terribly. Well, he's trying to be considered a serious pirate, but is doing it terribly. There's actually just something so inherently relatable about this character too, because I think in 1717, right? He was about 30 years old but he was having a midlife crisis. He just basically was like, screw it, and walked away from his life to go play. Was that kind of part of your development of the character, of finding this relatable nugget to him?
Yeah, he's a dreamer. I mean, the real character read too much. He loved reading, and that's why he ended up putting a library on his pirate ship, and he got that installed in real life and everything like that. And it was the only
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was the only pirate ship that had the captain had his own library, and that features quite a lot in our show because Stede is so proud of it, and no one cares. No one cares about reading in those days, apart from aristocracy who do have time to read. But of course, none of the pirates can really read. I think there's maybe one or two in my crew that would even want to read. But the thing is that he, the real character, and I go in and out of the real one and my one all the time, and it gets confusing for me. But he, as I say, was a dreamer and decided, because there was no effort to his life. He was a wealthy landowner. He was forced to marry someone he really didn't love, as was the thing in those days. People were put together in aristocracy. You're marrying that person. Mm-hmm. It fits with both families, and away you go. Won't expect children, please. And so it happens, and then he's just deeply unhappy, I think, with and reading stuff and going, oh my gosh, I wish I could be part of this adventure. I want to feel something. I think he wanted to feel alive, and that's part of the middle-age crisis that we all go through. And if it hasn't happened for you, it will. Is that you remember when you were 20, and you remember how you were bulletproof and you could do whatever you like. And then, of course, life catches up with you and all these responsibilities, and now you're a dad, and now you've got to pick the kids up from school, take them, and blah, blah, blah. And you find little nuggets of when you can dream, or that's what the reading is, I guess, in those days. These days, you escape to the cinema or whatever. But for me, when I would work as an actor and I'd go away, I did a lot of my filming on shows like Wrecked in the Caribbean myself, and then Fiji. I did Jumanji in Hawaii, and I'd be in these foreign locations on my own, and all of a sudden you feel like you're alone again, and you're in your 20s, and you're hanging out at the bar, and then it's fun for 5 minutes, and then you start to think, oh God, I miss the kids. What am I doing here? I'm out of my depth.
Yeah.
So I can relate to that idea, and I wonder whether in the flourish of where we are with Stede in this season, he's going through the romantic side of escapism. Yeah. And it's absolutely fun. And he's, he does, the realism does hit him, and because he's a pirate and there's blood and gore and killing. And then when that hits him pretty far, and it hits him in the first episode, he realizes that he's got to make it. Does he go home and forget about all this, which, in a modern world you would do? You go that, or does he stick with it? And so, yeah.
And talk a little bit about the people that he's kind of sticking with through this journey. Are these, first off, I love the crew. I love the crew of actors that you're working with. Is Stede's crew more Black Sails or Muppet Treasure Island?
The latter, absolutely. I mean, yeah, they're misfits. They're fun. They're funny, and they're sort of on the fence with Stede because he's providing them with a wage, which is another thing that the real Stede did. He paid his crew. No one else did. You really, in those days, you're in it together, and the only way you're going to survive is by looting and pillaging yourself. And so because Stede had cash, he would give them an allowance, and so they're onto a good thing. But the other side of the coin is the guy's an idiot. He's gonna float them straight into a battle that they're gonna lose, and they're gonna die. So, but at the same time, there's a sweetness about this character, which brings me back to my mum. And some of the outfits remind me of when I put these things on, that I look like my mum, and I felt like that a little bit with the Conchords as well. That I was sort of a mum character, mumming these, like. I don't use dad. I use mum because I'm a mum's boy, and I relate to mum more. And it's kind of that kind of, he reads some stories at night, and there's a sweetness there's a nurturing quality, I think, to Stede. He does care about these people, and so they start to see that, and they go, oh, maybe we should stick with them. So they're all at a kind of a battle with themselves as to whether they should stick with Stede.
Yeah. And it's not really a spoiler to say, well, we have the great actor Rory Kinnear is on the show as well, and without giving too much away, talk a little bit about the relationship between Stede and Rory's character.
So he's really important because he comes from Stede's past, and it's his past catching up with him, and he has to make a decision too. Where is he going to be, with the pirates, or should he be with, the British, who he was educated with and he can relate to more?
Mm-hmm.
And so that gives him a really powerful decision to make at that point. And it's without giving too much away, fun to watch what happens in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, we do know that Taika plays Blackbeard, and there is a journey of sorts between these characters. But can you tease out a little bit about the meeting between Stede and Edward Teach?
Yeah, I think it kind of happens as per it did in history, really, where it's over a battle, and it just we change it slightly because I think they met in the Isle of Pirates, the famous get together where I think Nassau is the island where they basically created a republic, and I think back in the day Stede was there. He was actually wounded, and we go through that in our show as well. And he comes across Edward Teach. It's just a complete chance meeting, and that's what happens in our show as well. And it's two characters who didn't realize they needed each other until it happens, and then we see that one who's sort of over his life. Blackbeard is just nothing's a challenge anymore, and he's really running on empty because he's just not excited. And you look at that, and the same this comparison to where Stede was when he was in his home married life, over it, running on empty, nothing else to excite him, changed his life. So it really it made sense that when Edward Teach meets Stede, someone who really shouldn't be in this pirate world, that he's excited by this lunatic, because what are you even doing here? And with all his fancy, lavish trappings that you would normally get if you were lucky enough to, loot these things after years at sea, this chap already has them already, and he's turned up with them, and he's prancing about with his style and his grace. And it's almost like he's certainly not in it for the desperation and the looting. So he blows Edward Teach's mind, because it's like, what is this? And so he then just invests himself into discovering what is going on with Stede, and is there something behind it? He doesn't trust him, but then they start to connect and get a friendship.
Yeah. And again, I think there's elements of this. If you take away the bloodshed, there's this is a story that's in a way could be set in any time frame of a sort of a trust fund baby that realizes he's had it all but never quite lived, and then seeing the grass on the other side, and meanwhile there's sort of this rock star of the pirate world that comes along, and he might be thinking having his own feelings about his life as a pirate. Is this the I guess the most intense kind of costuming that you've had to do, because it is quite a period piece?
Absolutely. I mean, I love period shows. That's pretty much all I watch. I don't know what that says about me, but I love the complete fantasy of putting crazy items on that, you wouldn't, when we look at it today, you think, why would you bother wearing all that? But I love it because it's just so out of the normal. I mean, these days, the world we live in, you might sort of think for 30 seconds about what T-shirt you're going to put on, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And so as an actor, as someone who's for my whole career has made up stories and acted things out on stage and imagined a crazy imagination, actually being able to sort of live that through the extra details of putting on these amazing garments, it was really, really fun. I mean, it took me a while to sort of get used to these quite high heelish boots that he wore with these dainty bows. I slipped over quite a few times, but once I got the hang of it, once I've got that stuff on, I mean, I'm Stede. That is it. I'm not me at all. And it really helped. And honestly, if you're going to make a period comedy, you've got to, the devil is in the details. And you'll see that on the set and on the clothing. And when we looked at each other and we were like, oh my God, this is real. We have to live up to and act as well as the things that we're wearing. So the pressure helped.
Yeah.
If we were just in some, loose, light or cheap, cheesy outfits that sort of were a nod, but would look cartoony, we would give a cartoony performance, and then we wouldn't be able to sell the story properly. It was quite an undertaking, but I think the results will show.
And this is a guy, Stede is this character that, whereas he's surrounded by people that are just grimy and, their teeth are falling out, everything, the open sores, that kind of thing. He's wearing white. He's wearing very fanciful outfits. But that's what, the famous illustration of Stede Bonnet is exactly that.
Yeah, exactly. I think with people in those days, if they had, like, he wouldn't have thought twice about what he was wearing. It's just you have it, you have the wealth. These are the garments you attain, and so that's what you wear. To wear anything less would be like, oh gosh, he'd feel naked, And I think he looks at these other chaps and he doesn't, he knows they're not the same class, but he can see through that. And he's the captain. He's in charge of these people. He knows that these guys are going to save his life, hopefully. But as we see, he does try to once the relationships start getting closer with all the crew, he shows them the fancy ways if anyone's interested. You know, usually they aren't, but some are, and he he does dress them up at some point, which they kind of don't really get away with. But
well, I mean, it seems like some of them are a little bit more willing to accept that nicer, the finer things, I guess, as we go on. And I'm curious, is this, as much as you can say, this is a 10-episode season because you're busy, because Taika's busy, or did you approach this as just a self-contained story, or is this the kind of thing where you feel like you could continue on with?
Oh, I think we can continue on. Absolutely. I mean, if this is going to be the hit I'm expecting it to be, then I think fans will want this to carry on. I certainly will. I think it's such great escapism, and we deal with modern themes in the show, so it's not as if we're just doing an oldie worldy thing that you know, is inappropriate in a lot of ways because the world is so different these days. We've brought modern themes into it, so I can't wait for people to see that and to see where else we can go with it.
There's a character played by Ewan Bremner that it took me a moment to recognize him, but of course he's from, you know, we know him from Trainspotting and so many other roles, but his character's named Buttons.
Yeah.
This name means something, Rhys. Tell me a little bit about how you got, anyone that knows your work, anyone that knows the Cryptid Factor, knows Buttons. How did there come to be a character named Buttons?
That is weird, right? I did think about that. Look, I don't have anything to do with that. There's
really?
David Jenkins. Yeah. I was just like, and he said, and by the way, you know, your second mate or first mate is Mr. Buttons. And I said, well, hang on. In real life, my first mate is Buttons. And so it's just one of these weird synchronicity moments where things come together. And I did ask him, I did say to him, if you listen to the Cryptid Factor, do you know about the famous actor Buttons? And of course, Leon, who is Buttons, my actual mate in real life, was like, oh, what? Is that being designed because of me? So, you know, you're not the only one that's sort of thought of that. I just don't know. I think it's just a great name, and I think it was a coincidence. But I look at it as a sign for sure, because I have that kind of paranormal mind.
Wait, compare and contrast the two Buttons versus Buttons. How are they similar and different?
I mean, honestly, Ewan's character is the only similarity is that he in his head at least thinks he knows what he's doing. He's an old pirate that has been around for a long time, is seemingly unkillable. He has these, you know, ridiculous teeth that he puts in his mouth, which are like sharpened versions of what Jaws from the Bond movies had. And he's, you know, he gets to speak in his thick Scottish accent, which is just so awesome. Now, and you look at my friend, he's definitely more of a tech nerd. He's Brains from the Thunderbirds, you know, so he would probably be the engineer on the ship, if anything. So he'd be the one that would be fixing everything as we're in the middle of a battle. Yeah, I always think about that with Leon. You know, I used to watch that movie, Gravity, where you know, that with Sandra Bullock, and the ship's coming to. She has to deal with leaving a spaceship, and I think she gets into a Russian one, and then or it's Chinese. I think it's Russian. I can't remember.
I think it's I forget, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
just to figure it out, and I think that's Leon. He would be able to push those. That's why it's called Buttons. You know, he would be able to work it out. Just as soon as he sees buttons and knobs and dials, he can work it out. Like I throw him in a Spitfire cockpit, and he'll be able to land it.
I just don't. I don't know how he would survive as a pirate, though.
Yeah, well, for a start, there's not many buttons.
No,
there's a couple of levers, but he'd be down. And there's no engine, by the way. So I don't know what I'm talking about there. It's a sailing ship. Although, I know we're talking too much about Leon now, but why not? He does have sailing skills, so he can sail a ship. Any moving vehicle, he can dominate.
He can propel. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, since you talked about your paranormal mind, and now we're talking about Leon, the Cryptid Factor, 71 episodes. The last episode was just January 12th, I believe. And wow, you guys, you keep trucking. I think it's been 12 years. Of the Cryptid Factor. This continues to be, despite the fact that you are all, you, Leon, Dan, you're all busy. You somehow managed to still eke out a episode periodically.
Now, by the looks of it,
which is a good schedule for you.
Yeah.
What has been the intriguing conversation lately between you three? What's been the thing that you guys have really been enjoying talking about the most, would you say?
Well, it's been hard because of late we have been really busy. And he's been, Leon's been back in New Zealand. Dan has been very busy with No Such Thing as a Fish and touring, and also his two kids that he's dealing with, young childhood stuff, parenting. I've been a little bit less busy this year, just sort of. But when we get together, I guess it's where we always talk about the UFO crisis. Something that was built up, and then the thing came out. Really, nothing came from that, and now we're all kind of going, okay, so what's the next step? We're still being sort of drip fed little information, but it feels like things have run a little bit dry, to be honest with you, at the moment. And even when we're looking at cryptid stories, there isn't much. I felt like it's weird because during the first year or so of the pandemic, and this thing is still going, there was quite a lot of cryptid stories, but of late, is the last show we did, it was a struggle to find stuff. So yeah, and to be honest, my head's been so much into this pirate show in the last few weeks, I can't pull anything else out of my head right now.
Yeah, you're too busy with pirates and not thinking enough about aliens. Because as adult men, that's totally natural for us. Yeah,
the weirdness.
I think it's because of the pursuit of weirdness that I've somehow avoided a midlife crisis, because I'm still pretty much talking about the stuff that I loved as a kid. I think that helps you avoid the midlife crisis.
Yeah. And if you get to escape and do some UFO conferences or Bigfoot conferences, I know these things are still happening. I still get invited to these things. I still want to go to them. But it's the pandemic means you just you don't even want to go near a plane until this whole thing's over. It's just a real pain in the ass. But I'm glad that the world's continuing, and I think things will pick up again as when we get to endemic, which pray to God is not too far away.
The just kind of circling back for a moment to the alien, the declassified report. I don't even know what disclosure looks like anymore. I do think that sort of the door was kind of cracked open and then slammed shut. That it was just like, here's a little bit of info and that's it. You guys are good, right? Okay, we're done. I mean, what do you think disclosure looks like? Is it going to come from governments, or is it have to be forced by the people, or what do you think?
I got some crazy theories, but look, the thing is that I think you're right. They did open the door, and they said, this is all real. This is happening. This has been happening forever. And we just wanted to make sure you guys knew it's all real. There's a report coming out that's going to really give you nothing, but we'll leave it there. And I think the door hasn't shut. I think it's just left. There's just, I'm trying to get my fingers right. And
just align them perfectly.
Yeah, with the camera. Is that it's like that. It's open. You can look through, but you can look through and you can see that it's real, but you're only seeing what they're revealing. And so, but I don't think it's shut. I think it's the dialogue has strengthened and become something that people can openly talk about in the last few years since 2017. And so, to that end, I think disclosure is happening, but it's going to take time. We'll just pull that door even further apart. And so, just when I said I had crazy theories, if things do lead to a terrible disaster with a war in Europe, for example, we may see way more UAP situations go down, because the fact that they're here and have been monitoring us for years and are always hovering around nuclear sites when we're playing with our weaponry and are saying, hey, stop that. What better way to figure out, and I don't want a war, by the way, but if anything does happen, if there's any kind, we may see a lot more evidence of what's going on. And then if we know more evidence may be revealed as to, can they stop? Can they help humanity stop a conflict? I mean, I don't know. I'm just talking crazy now, but.
Well, I mean, you're talking to the right person, but
exactly.
I mean,
I figured.
that's assuming that they just don't decide to come in and say, all right, well, you had your shot, we're running the joint now.
That could be it as well. They're like, are you kidding me? You guys, you idiot humans are going to do another war. That is not the direction we want to go. So maybe, and to that end, they might come out at the last minute and go, okay, stop it, please, remove the tanks. We're gonna, we're gonna use our laser beams to sort this shit out if you guys don't. I think that also in the media, like the amount of documentaries and TV shows and things that have happened in the last couple of years has been really astonishing too. It's certainly ramped up.
Yeah, and there's a couple of good ones out right now. I think they just dropped today. I had already seen them about the abduction stories of both Betty and Barney Hill and then Travis Walton. Right. They're on Discovery Plus, and the way they're treating them is, there's some sensationalism with it, but it's actually an interesting telling. I don't know if you know Ben Hansen; he's involved with that one, and it's I would recommend checking those out. I'm somewhat surprised that you said UAP instead of UFOs. Rhys, I don't know if we should be making UAP happen. I feel like, I don't know, I'm still a UFO guy.
Yeah, so am I, but it's a much cooler thing to say. But I guess what UAP does is it broadens the scope of people to actually accept it. It removes the stigma. So if that can advance this whole thing that we're into to being more acceptable, then I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I meet people at parties and I start talking about UFOs and they go, oh my God, does he really believe in that stuff? I think less and less now when you talk about UFOs at parties, people they're sort of more coming in and going, oh, okay, yeah, you're talking about that. Yeah, I'm interested in that. These UAP, and especially if you use UAP, because it makes it sound as though you've only just cottoned onto it, when really you've been a fan since you were 8.
I don't know that. I mean, especially in the entertainment industry, I don't know that I run into too many people, and I'm not moving in the same circles as you, but when I go to events, when I interact with people, I don't run into a lot of people in the entertainment industry that are really push back on it and really reluctant, because I mean, the job itself demands some level of creativity and openness, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I think a lot of people in the arts industry are fully on board, or always have been, because it's that dreamy lookout kind of mentality. We don't have our heads down too much. We're sort of we have hopes in the clouds of things that might happen. As an artist, I like to take risks and dream that maybe I'll make it one day. And if I didn't have that in my head, I'd still be a soldier in the New Zealand Army carrying howitzer shells around.
Yeah,
I did that for a little bit. That's right.
I know.
my big
You-
muscly arms.
You had some security clearance as well, if I recall from our
Top secret.
yeah.
Man, if I could go back to those days now, if I still had that clearance, imagine what I could find out. I wasn't even thinking about UFOs back then. I was too busy like learning Morse code.
My conspiracy theory with you is that this is all what is that movie Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, that this is all just a front, the whole actor comedian thing, that you're just deep undercover as it's deep state Darby here.
Yeah. Well, you might be right. You know, I'm pretty tight with Jacinda, the Prime Minister. I could be over here just sort of getting into Hollywood, just to open a few doors and find out exactly what's happening, just to become the New Zealand ambassador for the UAP International Conference.
I know you legitimately are tight with her. I mean, look, tell her she doesn't know who I am, but I say hi. I want disclosure, but man, I would love to meet her because I find her so inspiring. I find her being an incredible person and leader. So I don't know. Find out. Yeah. I'm sure, tell her I follow her on Instagram. I'm sure she'll follow me back. Before I let you go, every time I do interviews with people, I try to just solicit some fan questions. And something that has come up multiple times with you is, do you believe in ghosts? And I know we've talked about this. Mm-hmm. This is a topic people keep bringing up. So unfortunately, yeah. I mean, anytime I interview you, but so say it again. Say, what your stance is on this.
Yeah. Look, I do believe in them. I do believe in them, but I just can't be bothered with them. And it's because we decided on the Cryptid Factor not to deal with ghosts, because there was so many other shows and dealing with that subject matter, and we would watch the shows, the ghost hunter shows, with there's no lights, there's the people running about in the dark with cameras bumping into things and listening to a noise, and it just I think there was just too much of it, and I've had ghostly experiences myself, and so that's why I have to believe in it. And I do believe in this this spiritual side of what happens to us. I don't really understand it as any of us, but I think the energy within us does go on, and it maybe does get trapped here on some instances. And I just think that it's so difficult to get a tangible hold of those entities that it's not as fun for me as the physical beings of the cryptids.
I will say that when I was researching things for Our Flag Means Death, I was also going down the rabbit hole of old nautical UFO sightings, and there are a lot of them. I don't know if Stede ever had one, but it was just an interesting rabbit hole.
On the show, that's a great idea. Yeah, they do. They have. There's people, sailors of oldie worldy times have seen lights in the sky. I think Christopher Columbus.
He recorded it.
He witnessed lights in the sky as well. Yeah.
Well, my friend, we are out of time, but I appreciate you chatting with me. And look, anytime you want me on the Cryptid Factor, you just let me know. I'm always promoting something. But in the meantime, you, sir, again, I really enjoyed Our Flag Means Death. 3 episodes premiere on March 3rd on HBO Max, 3 episodes on March 10th, 2 episodes on March 17th, and then 2 episodes on March 24th. And meanwhile, the Cryptid Factor is still trucking, still going on, 12 years strong. And Rhys Darby, I thank you so much for your time, and just best of luck with the show. Again, it's really great, and clearly you're having a good time doing it.
Yeah, no, I'm loving it. I've seen the trailers and stuff. I haven't watched many of the episodes yet. I'm waiting for them to come out. But it's one hell of a ride, and I'm very, very proud to be on it.
Well, 5 episodes in, I'm all in. I'm on board, you might say.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, Rhys. I know you got to go, and hopefully we'll get to chat again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you all for joining yet another Talking Strange. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you check out your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And please give me a follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, at Aaron Sagers. Watch our interviews at youtube.com/Den of Geek US. And if you have any guest suggestions, please let us know. I want to hear from you guys, and I want you to be part of the Talking Strange community. Hashtag Talking Strange, and also Talking Strange on Twitter and Instagram. And until next time, be kind, stay spooky, and keep it weird.